All right, guys, this is day 4, and I'm actually doing this before 11 p.m. It's 10:48 right now, and I'm actually recording this just like yesterday from the M Lounge. Except this time we're parked right next to a training building. Actually, let's show them right over there. And so through the M Lounge, we were doing work. We're doing some editing over here, but we are reviewing from our training we just had on the other side of this church. This church is actually allowing us to stay. We built a great relationship. Power of networking. We're gonna learn more and teach more on that later. But we networked and they actually welcomed us to be over here, gave them their business card, and this parking lot is sharing a parking lot with the Elliott training group over there. And you'll see the line. You can't really see it at night, so I'll show you guys tomorrow. But we're here because we're staying out here and we're going to the event, and we love the mentality of being the first one there and last to leave. And you know what? Last to leave. I think we're the last to leave because we're the only ones here. But we're going to get up, do a workout. I brought my weights, and we are going to get ready, shower, and be in line to get to around the association and network and grow and learn. It's cold, so let's go back in here. All right. So, thank you guys. I got a cool team here. We're like learning and adapting as we go along. Now that we're back inside, honestly, guys, this whole moment and going to these meetings, the Internet Association, it feels really familiar to me. I've spent a lot of years of my life, probably 14 years now, 14, 15 years, going to events and seminars and business meetings like these, whether they're leadership meetings, business training seminars, whether they're small ones, big ones, medium-sized ones in convention centers or arenas, whatever it was. I've been to probably hundreds of them if you include the house meetings and just different business trainings. And after building even success in business in a young age, I even ended up speaking at a lot of them as well. So something interesting happened today though, because this is actually the third time. There's different themes in different events, and the one I went to today and this weekend is called Built to Scale. So Andy and Jackie have different themes. They have mastery and closing, it's business syndicate and sales events and trips in Miami and retreats and couples retreats. And so this theme and this subject specifically is called Built to Scale, right? And it's focused on teaching us and encouraging us of why we need to build our business, why we need to build our brand, and how to effectively do it in scale and do it in a way that we actually have freedom and not have to sell our time, right? To have true freedom and to be able to be equipped to help other people, right? And so it's crazy. So this is actually the third time that I've studied this material, right? And so the first time I came to it, even in any Elliott event, was back in November. I was coming in as a guest, as in person, and the theme was Built to Scale. After the first day, I was blown away, and I brought my family with me. And we went to another event the weekend after that. So the Built to Scale event was incredible because it taught what I needed to know on just how to start my company, my vision, because I've been processing and brainstorming for the last year and a half, 2 years, on what I want to do, the visions of how I want to share our story, my story, to be able to impact lives. But I felt through even guilt and shame and failures and mistakes and just losing momentum and a lot of shifts and changes in life, I haven't really been able to get out there and coach and equip people, and probably lost belief in myself in doing so, which is why I love that my coaches and my family are pushing me to do this. On top of that event, about 2 months later, about January, 2 months later, about 2 months ago, they gave me the Built to Scale modules, right? And so people spent, I think, $6,000 or $7,000 for these courses. Many people did. And being part of the Brotherhood, I got these modules, which is a 20 video training on Built to Scale. So it was a recording of the Built to Scale event that happened, I believe, in July, several months before. And it was pretty cool because there was 20 modules. There were all these Q&A sessions. And I just learned and took notes and grew from a ton from them, even though I went to the Built to Scale event before. My mom watched through all the modules, and she's telling me how much she's growing and changing and understand business now. So it's awesome because we've always been around business. We've always been kind of entrepreneurs, been around entrepreneurial people. We've learned from entrepreneurs for many years, but we learned so much from this content. And so what's crazy, we just watched that for a couple of weeks ago. We finished it. And I went to Built to Scale. And so this is the third time I'm learning Built to Scale. And I want to talk about this because technically the content overall is pretty similar, right? It's similar. But it's so interesting on how much Andy and Jackie evolve and how they deliver the information, the relevancy, just using current relevant stories and information and changes they've made and pivots they've made in the last handful of months. I really admire that because I'm like, wow, I'm watching this for the third time and I'm learning so much. In fact, what's weird is this time it actually hit me way harder. I actually feel like I got way more out of the first day of this third event than I did at the other Built to Scale. And I really believe the reason why is because it's actually simple. This time, I'm actually in the fight. Even though it's technically the same information, it hit very differently because I'm actually technically in the fight. So right now, I'm on day 4 of posting every single day. Just from posting the first 3 days. Even though the first couple of days, they may have been messy, they may have been messing up with flat tires, adjusting, learning, maybe talking too fast, talking too much, talking too little. Actually taking action is what we did. So when I heard these lessons today, they weren't just theory anymore. They were immediately applicable. It reminded me of something I used to teach people for many years. When people would go to meetings and growth events, I used to say this all the time. Don't just go for content. Okay? Content's great, and especially if you're starting to do things and you're starting to fail, because my old perfectionist mindset is I was going to Built to Scale to get all these ideas about how to start posting, how to scale up business that I hadn't really started yet. I had all these ideas, but I haven't executed or started yet. And now that I'm in the process of this 90-day run of actually building something and actually creating content and making mistakes almost on purpose and just getting my stories out there. So today, being around Andy, Jackie, their team, the clients, especially the brotherhood, that environment matters. Okay, I brought my new right-hand wand with me today because my family usually comes, and it was his first time here, his first day, and he loved it. Even though he was already in social media, already knew a lot about hooks and stuff on TikTok, just the way that Andy delivered it and the added layers of information with all the experiences, he was talking all day about the things that he's learned. And having my mom and dad here with me gave us all the confidence that I needed too, because I know that we're moving in the right direction. And it actually made something very clear to me. A lot of people in life start with the wrong questions. They start with the what and how. Okay, so even when they came to my meetings back then, it's like, well, what is this? What is the name of the company? What business should I do? How do I grow? How do I make money? How does it work? How does the company? And they're all important questions. Okay, but I think that they're too focused. They're too prioritized and too focused. And so I want to make sure, I'll explain this a little bit because I used to explain this in all my talks because it reminded me today that the order that people run it by versus how they should do it is very, very different. Because it all should start with why. In fact, Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why. Incredible book. So typically when I'm learning to do, if I'm trying to explore and find something to do, start another business and diversify, all these, and I'm setting goals, I don't focus on, okay, what should I do? What is it? How does it work? How do I make money? It's just, you don't focus on that first. Start with your why, okay? So start with why, okay? Start with why. How do you want to live? Not what do you want to do for a living, but how do you want to live? Not just what career you want to have, not just what you want to do 30, 40 hours a week, because your life is more than that, right? How do you want to live? How do you want to travel? How do you want to raise your kids? How do you want your marriage to be? How do you want your fitness? How do you want your life to be spiritually, relationally, emotionally, physically, financially? I call it the 5 walks of life. We'll talk about that later, okay? Start with your why. And I would encourage you to identify a why or a purpose in all different areas, right? And so in your relationships, in your marriage, have a goal, right? So how do I know what goal to set? Whose marriage do you admire? Whose lifestyle do you admire? I don't just want to study someone because they're rich. I want to study someone, and when it comes to finances, I want to make sure that the business doesn't own them and that they actually have a life and that they're not trading away time with their family and their kids to sacrifice to keep trading time for dollars or making money or being a slave to the business. I've even met people that are 9-10 digit earners that are frustrated with their life because they wish they had a lot more free time. Okay, so with that, okay, what are you doing? So the basic thing is, why are you doing what you're doing? Figure out your why, because it's not just money, it's not just success, but find the real reason that drives you. And this should grow over time. What I see some people do is they'll pick a why, and then then when other people would have collaborative ideas and show opportunities, they're like, it conflicts with the original why that they had. Like, no, I set my mind to doing this. And I have a tendency of doing things that way as well. And what I've learned is that your why should grow, form, mold, and expand, especially when you start getting around people with big whys. Your whys should grow. my dreams and my whys, my belief in what I can do today because of the value that I've added into myself by investing in myself is different than what it was even 1 year ago, even for sure 10 years ago, 14 years ago, because of what I can accomplish today is dramatically different than what I can accomplish 10 years ago because of all the time I've invested in myself by going to all the seminars and events. So who are you surrounding yourself with? Okay, I think that's important to know. That's the next step. Okay? Because I think a lot of people try to do is once they figure out the why, they're like, all right, I know how I want to live. So what's the best way to get there? How do I get there? You're still going too fast. You're skipping steps. The next step should be finding people who live the way that you want to live or accomplish that, or they're well on their way to that because they're plugged into people or learning from people who have accomplished that. Okay? Because for me, if I want to be a billionaire, if I want to be a multi-millionaire or whatever the goal is, the financial goal, I want to be free. I can study from people who have accomplished that. But I've accomplished a lot of success by studying people that weren't quite there yet. Maybe they were only 5 or 10% there, but they were being mentored and coached by people who were there and beyond. And I learned from those people. And I actually built a business large enough to quit my traditional 9-to-5 job to be full-time in business, learning from people who were not financially independent from their job, right? And so, but because of who they were surrounding themselves with. This is so important. It is so underrated. Your future net worth is based on your network. So if you actually want to increase your net worth, you got to keep increasing your network. I teach people to increase their network in quantity and or quality every day. We'll talk about that later, okay? And what's also cool is that by finding the right who, because maybe some of you guys don't really know how to put a why together. You don't know how to believe in yourself. You don't know how to dream build. You don't know how to set goals that feel realistic, but also that stretch you, that can set a game plan together. So actually, one of the best, if you don't have a why, you're not good at it, one of the best ways to have a good solid why is to surround yourself with people who have very, very big purposes. And when I say a big purpose, I'm not talking about a big degree. I'm not talking about a big job with a big paycheck. I'm talking about a big purpose, that the way they want to live is very different than many, many, many others, and that's what makes it attractive. Okay? Because here's the thing, we don't want to live like the masses. They always say, if you want to live with the class, you want to live with the classes or live with the masses? If you want to live with the classes, find out everything and make a list of what the masses do. And you can do the opposite of 95% of them, and you will be more successful. When I heard that, I actually applied that pretty literally, and I'll just say it worked for me, personally, okay? Once you have these connections, not just one, have multiple layers, right? And it doesn't have to be someone that mentors all your life. I have somebody who's my MMA coach. I have somebody who's my boxing coach. I have somebody who's my fitness aesthetics coach. I have an aesthetics manager I'm in this ugly stage right now of growing everything out that I've never done before. That's why I'm wearing a lot of beanies and hats, and I have to wear these headbands to grow my hair because I have people that are managing the look, my stage look. And so, it's delegation. I'm surrounding myself with people with big goals, big ambitions, who have people who are wealthy, people who are multimillionaires, some people that are billionaires, some people who may not be millionaires, but they have an incredible free time. They have a lot of free time and they have an incredible lifestyle. And once you have this, then you will be able to know what to do and how to do it. Okay? Instead of focusing on these, focus on these and even if you have this down, you think, if you keep enhancing this, I'm telling you, this not only gets simpler and easier, it also gets better, because that gets better. Because especially if you're getting around people who are growing, that means the quality of your who is growing. That means the quality of your growth is growing. Guys, this is huge. I don't usually lecture or teach on these days, but man, I got so convicted in learning from some of the best that I feel selfish not teaching the things that worked for me and many other people. Okay? And so, start with your why, then who, when, how. So now that we're doing that, I guess we'll start with this. Why am I doing this? Okay? Why am I doing this? Because if I'm honest, okay? Because this connects directly to my 90-day challenge. Because I want to talk about it, and I realized I didn't really break down my why. Okay? And we'll talk about it a little more, because I want to keep these short and simple, and I'm just posting daily content. I'm just improving. But honestly, how it started, as you guys heard in my other videos, is my coach, my good friend, Ali, call him Prince Ali, he encouraged me to do it. And my family heard that, and they also challenged me, and Juan and everyone's challenging me. They basically told me this: stop overthinking. Okay, you're going too slow. Just start. Just post. Just go. I was like, oh, I want cameras this, and Ollie told me, he says, Matt, just pick up the phone and be like, hey guys, da 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 da, and just it's gonna suck, and post it anyways, and just make the next day better. And that way, when you have a batch, we'll meet up and we'll talk about how to improve. That was hard for me. That was hard for me. So I want to talk about this. Why am I doing this? I'm doing this for me. Okay? I'm doing this for you, but I have to do this for me first to become the person that I can regularly do it without being so influenced by what people think. So this is how I did it. Day 1 was imperfect. Day 2, still messy. Day 3, we finally started creating some structure, and you saw the progress of it. We wanted to show the progress of it that accidentally happened. And now here we are, day 4. And I'm starting to see something more clearly. These 90 days aren't about content. Again, they're about me overcoming myself, overcoming my brain, overcoming my trauma that I imposed on myself, right? Because for the last 2 years, I've done a lot of reflecting. I've done a lot of thinking, and probably, honestly, a lot of overthinking. Thinking about my past, thinking about what the people that I was close with, the people that I've hurt, thinking about what they might think, how they make fun of me, or what are they saying. Honestly, these are relationships I think a lot about, because I still care very, very, very deeply about. So there's a lot of things that I've worked through and still working through, because those relationships are the closest relationships I've had. I mean, I remember talking to Ali, and he's like, man, like, you know, I have this new life, and Andy changed my life, and when Andy changed my life, like, I'd do anything for that guy, and like, he's my mentor. And I told him, I said, oh man, Ali, that's what makes it tough, because the guys that I was connected with, my mentors, that's what they were for me too. And, you know, just like it'd be hard for you to separate from somebody that changed your life, that's what I went through. But I do know that, you know, going through that, I needed to go through that. I need to be held accountable for the things that I did, and that to change, to grow. I needed to go through that. And if I'm honest, that overthinking kept me from moving forward. So thank you, Ollie. I want to tell you thank you. Okay, if you see this, I know you're not aware that the videos are out yet. I'm doing this batch for myself so that you all can coach me and grow me better, so that the world can watch how I started and can see how the improvements and the planning and the adjustments happen for the 90 days for the launch on June 1st. So the 90 days means something simple: just starting where I am and getting a little bit better every day, learning, adjusting, improving, and being honest about that process. Because the truth is, knowledge by itself, like I said, isn't power. Applied knowledge is power. So let's apply. Okay? And applied knowledge becomes a lot easier if you surround yourself with the right people. Okay? So tomorrow, when we get back here for the next day for this event, I actually want to show you some of the who. Because today, I'm talking about the why. I'm doing this. And like, again, you'll learn about the why. Why the Matthias Maximus? What's that brand? What is the Maximus brand that we're building? Why are we doing it? What are these 90 days for? We'll get to that more and more and more. I'll share more of the why, right? But tomorrow, I want to focus on the who. I hope I have the time to focus on getting on some of the staff, the clients, especially the brotherhood, especially the people here who are really serious about growth, okay? Because that's the part that most people don't see. And that's the part that really makes the difference, okay? So tonight, mobile lounge, parked outside. It's getting late, it's curfew. Sleeping here, getting up early, and getting in there tomorrow. Great start to the days in the weekend. Day 4 complete. I'll see you at day 5.